Hello Internet, this is Whispering Whim. Today I'm going to be doing a bit of a crafting ramble, I think is what I'm going to call it. We'll see if that makes it into the final title or not. And basically, a little while back, I showed some foil prints that I had made. And one of the commenters, I'm sorry I forgot your name, asked if they could see how these are made, right? And I happen to need to make a whole bunch of them today. So what's going to happen is that I'm going to make them and I'll show the video of at least one or two being made. There'll be lots of crinkly noises because the foil has a plastic sheet on it. So there'll be lots of crinkle noises and I'll show you one or two of them, right? And then I'm going to switch the video to some footage that I captured on a recent trip to Monterey Bay. And then from there I'll craft and I'll ramble. And hopefully it'll be just a fun little video for those who are keen on learning more about me, or at least having something other than a food-related video come from me once in a while. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So the first step for making the foils is that I create an image in Photoshop. And then I print it out on black cardstock with toner. So that would be your laser printer. This technique will not work with an inkjet, so it'll start off looking like this. And what happens is that toner-based ink actually has kind of like little bits of plastic in it. And when you run it through a laminator, which mine is hot and ready to go off to the left here, the ink heats back up, right? And it catches onto the plastic of the foil. And then when you pull off the sheet, everywhere that there was ink hopefully has grabbed the foil, and when there wasn't ink, doesn't grab any foils, so you end up with a lovely foiled image. And the laminator that I use is just a very basic, it's one of the Amazon standard laminators. So you don't have to do anything special. Although if you want a higher quality print, there is a brand, Heidi Swap, that has their own heat machine that has more temperature control. And their foil is actually a lot smoother than what I use. The stuff I have comes from China, right? And it's not as smooth, but it's about a third of the cost. So I use the cheap stuff. Not gonna lie. I make probably about anywhere from 30 to 50 prints for one show. And so far I've sold most of what I've printed. I actually had to do a big restock. So that's why we're working on those right now. So the paper is running through the laminator as I speak. And all those little like crunchy noises is I accidentally got a little piece of the foil plastic stuck inside my motor. But it seems to work anyway, so I'm glad for that. Because I ended up getting the jumbo size so that I could do, prints that are this big, right? So it's a little more expensive than just the standard tiny laminator, right? So we had our black paper with the image printed on it, some foil, and then this is just a protective top sheet. that kind of helps prevent the plastic from wrinkling as much, although this one wrinkled quite a bit. This may not be a usable print. But now that it's caught onto the ink, we'll go ahead and pull it back. You see, very, very crinkly and slightly upside down. So as predicted, that one crinkled a bit too much. I may have been focused on the video more than making sure my paper was flat. So there's a few little flaws right up in there, but it gives you a good idea about what happens, right? And just to kind of really bring it home, this is the sheet that I used, and you can see that the impression of the bear has been taken out of the foil. So let's go ahead and we'll do one more bear. See if we can't get that to be nice and smooth this time. And then I think after I show you this one, we'll go ahead and move to the footage of the fish. But again, I'm still going to be crafting in the background. So if you're not a big crinkle person, this may not be the video for you, right? There we go. It's now going through the laminator, which is kind of slow. Definitely a little too slow for video purposes. But the one thing that's nice about it moving nice and slow is when it doesn't make too much noise. I think you can kind of hear the hum of the motor, but it's not too loud, hopefully. And also it should give me time to kind of look at what video I have playing on the screen so that I can actually comment on some of the images directly. When I ramble, I tend to get distracted quite easily, so that will be my biggest concern with making this video. We have one more flaw area, but it might not be too bad on this one. I'll go ahead and peel that up. And what I'll go ahead and do is probably run this with a piece of paper again to see if I can't kind of get the small spots that didn't capture the ink to pick up, maybe. But that's it. That's the whole process for making foil images. Not too hard, right? The trickiest part is just getting the initial setup, right? Because you have to have a laminator and the right kind of foil. It's not like you can just throw some tin foil on there and it'll work. So, yeah. So now that I've explained the foiling, we're gonna go ahead and start showing you some pictures and videos that I took on my trip. I think I mentioned in my grocery haul video that that was a early birthday present. So I took videos hoping that I could do an ASMR video. But I don't think there's quite enough of them, honestly. I realized after I looked through all of the footage that I really should have spent a whole lot more time in each section photographing, you know, a single item. And I also noticed that my camera doesn't pick up low light situations very well. So the quality of video leaves something to be desired, honestly. But what can you do, right? The visuals are just kind of there to help everybody relax while I do my crafting, right? That little map that you saw a photograph of, that is the sleepover map. Basically, it showed everybody's assigned sections, right? And we were in the Ocean's Edge, I believe it was called, the open ocean, something like that. And we brought in air mattresses, and really sleeping was the most minor detail, right, of the whole trip. The most important thing was just enjoying the whole space without a whole lot of people, right? And that part we got to do. So it was a whole lot of fun. We were sleeping underneath a large crab. I can't remember what kind of crab it was supposed to be. That's probably, if I ever did this again and I planned on making a video, I'd probably take pictures of all the place cards. But live and learn, right? This was kind of probably a once in a lifetime opportunity. I don't think I'll be able to do anything quite like that again. But it was very enjoyable. And there was plenty of time to gaze out at the ocean, among looking at all the fishies. I live in the desert, Nevada. I won't get too specific because you never know with the internet, right? So being around a bunch of water is definitely a novel experience for me. And I confess that I spent quite a bit of time just watching the waves crash off in the distance. Included in the price of the sleepover was admission to the aquarium the very next day, but they did kick us out for roughly an hour and a half, and I think I got most of my good footage while we were out waiting to be let back in, because it was daylight, and my camera definitely liked that a lot better. So I got pictures of the beach and of people just wandering around. There was a little storefront right by the entrance of the aquarium. I think it was actually part of their gift shop, which we did not visit. There was just not enough time for everything. So there was a lot of really interesting things to see, and in addition to all of the animals, there was lots and lots of artwork, which I enjoyed looking at. There was a whole section on octopuses and other cephalopods. And my guy, my fiance, he has a particular soft spot for anything that has tentacles. And he's a big fan of Cthulhu and octopus art and things like that. So I definitely took some pictures of that while I was there. Aside from that, I also really enjoyed, there were a lot of different displays where water would kind of splash around. They did kind of like, what would you call it, the reef and tide pool kind of displays. And there were these little, I want to call them mud skippers, but I don't think that's what they were called. These little rock creatures that kind of looked like tadpoles a little bit. and they would sit on a rock and then they'd get splashed. So it was kind of like on the beach, kind of a replica. And every time they got splashed, they would jump around, which was a great amusement to us. Oh, and look at that. I actually took a picture of the sign for this particular part of the exhibit. The little rock jumping people are called leaping blennies. And so my fiance, he likes the octopuses, and my future sister-in-law really likes the anything that's kind of like a frog, I guess would be the quickest way to describe it. Hops around and kind of looks a little goofy, stuff like that. So she enjoyed the leaping blennies, and we stayed quite a while just watching them hop around on the rocks. So I actually went with both of my future sister-in-laws and their mother. So you can see one of them right here enjoying the penguin exhibit. That wasn't open overnight, so we had to go and visit the penguins in the daytime when the aquarium was open for regular hours. So it's a little more crowded, but still pretty enjoyable. One thing I would really have to recommend if anyone has a chance to do something like that is that unless you live, in the same town or maybe the next town over as the aquarium, I'd add a whole nother day because really there was a lot that we didn't get to see. We tried to take in as many sights as we could. Parts of the aquarium were off limits during the sleepover portion, right? And really, in order to have enough time to drive back to our town, and we had planned on making a stop at the infamous Daiso along the way. We both really love those cheap, cute things that the Daiso have to offer, right? But anyways, so we only got to spend like half a day in the aquarium the following morning. And we were all slightly sleep deprived because we were sleeping on air mattresses, right? So I would just, another one of those things that if you could do it all over again, right? I would try to make sure that there's a second night, that we could just kind of hang out a little bit longer and relax, because we wanted to see everything, and it was impossible with the schedule that we had to keep, right? But it was a good trip to have with my future family. We actually do quite a few things together, so in that respect I am closer to my sister-in-laws and my mother-in-law than I am to my actual family, which is a little odd. It's not bad, but I never thought family would be one of those things I'd enjoy hanging out with. But back to the pictures. I'm showing you some still photographs right now, both so that you can get a sense for the emptiness of the area and kind of see our general sleepover section. We were next to the kelp forest, technically on the other side of the wall, And as I mentioned, we had a crabby roommate, so to speak, hanging out above us. So unfortunately, in that section, it's completely lights out. So there wasn't taking a lot of videos or staring at him after bedtime was called. And I think they did lights out not until midnight. They gave us a fair amount of time, but it felt really fast. What you're watching right now is a little bit of pictures of the petting section. I confess that touching a sea creature intentionally was not up there on my priorities personally, but the sister-in-laws really enjoyed it. So I did end up finally petting a stingray and giving a piece of coral a little brushing, right? But nothing very extensive. It was yeah, the texture, you know, because they're not slimy, which would be the first thing you would think. They're more of kind of leathery but flexible, and it's moving and underwater, so it just, I don't know, wasn't my jam, but I'm glad they convinced me to at least put my hand in for a few minutes. It was worthwhile doing. And at this point, we are pretty much out of film footage. I'll throw up a couple of random pictures, and then I'll show you a couple pictures of my wedding dress try-ons. So that's pretty exciting, right? I was very shocked that we ended up actually buying a dress that day. Our plan had been to look at dresses and then find one that we wanted to replicate. The whole idea being that we were gonna sew my wedding dress to save some money. But there were two really awesome possibilities in the store, and they were both on sale. And really, they were almost perfect already. And once you imagined getting it tailored specifically to you, right? It just made sense to buy it, I guess. So that was quite a surprise. But it was a happy surprise. Definitely not complaining, right? And with that, I realized that I am just about out of time, so we're gonna go ahead and throw up those wedding store pictures that I promised. They are portrait instead of landscape, and I do apologize for that, but these were photos that obviously I didn't take. And I won't spoil the surprise as far as which one I ended up picking, but as you can see, there's quite a few fun choices, and I really felt pretty. You know, I know everybody just kind of has a bit of a magic moment, right? Or at least that's what's described. But I think because I've been losing weight, and this has just been such a long time coming, that it was really special. And I didn't tear up, but when I went to get my dress, because they ship it pretty quick, they let me try it on again, And I nearly bawled. It was just so very pretty. So we are now less than a year away from the wedding, which is super exciting. And yeah, we are out of time for video, so I have to wrap things up now. This whole process ended up taking a bit more time than I expected. But I appreciate everybody for coming along and listening if you made it this far. I don't know if those foil crinkles were good or not, but it's always fun to try new things, right? Thank you to everybody who comments. Shout out to Apple Tree, and I'll see you guys next time. Good night.